Yay! So I hope you guys are having a great Thanksgiving. I don't know if I'm gonna have this video out by that time, but if I get it out before then, yay me. So today I'm going to be doing something that I've never done before. It's actually to make little Christmas ornaments out of yarn. So I have actually known how to crochet for like several years now. I started it at like the beginning of college, just because I thought it was like a fun crafty thing I could do and learn how to do. Originally, I was planning on crocheting some hats for my coworkers because I wanted to make them like a fun little gift for this year that's not like super expensive or crazy or anything. But unfortunately, the yarn that I bought online is too small. So I bought this yarn off of Hobby, which is just like a little yarn website, and I really liked all of their colors and I really liked their like quality of yarn, I guess. They had a lot of good reviews, but unfortunately the little bundles that they sent me are super small. And so I only got 2 of each of these colors and it's just not going to be enough for a hat. So I am actually going to be turning this into some cute little Christmas ornaments instead. I was expecting something a little bit bigger, like something like this size. This is just something that I bought at Walmart, and I would have bought more of this, but unfortunately they didn't have a lot of colors. They just had like blue and black and stuff. So I'm hoping I can turn this into something cool and something that my coworkers will actually appreciate and like, and we'll see how it goes. So this is the color of yarn I'm going to be doing for the first ornament. So my goal is kind of to make a little like hat basically and make it like a cute little tiny hat, and then I'm going to put some buttons of my coworkers' favorite animals on them, hopefully. And so I know how to make like a real hat, so I'm assuming that if you make a tiny version of that, it'll also turn into a hat. So that's essentially what I'm going to try to do. I'm also going to be using the 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. That is what they recommend on the little packaging for this stuff. And I am by no means an actual expert on crocheting, so for the most part I just kind of follow whatever they recommend for the size of yarn that I have. So this is my first little loop. I am going to essentially just make a long rectangular thing, and then I'm going to turn that into a hat. So the first thing you do is just make a line of loop chains. I don't know if that's the actual word for that, but that's what I call it. Alright, so I have a chain of 20, so I always make sure to count the amount of stitches that I make, just because otherwise you'll lose track halfway through and then you will accidentally like miss a couple and then everything gets all messed up. So word of advice, definitely always count each of the stitches you're making. So now that I have the bottom one done, I am going to just go through the top layer and make another layer on top. Alright, so that is my first row done. Should look something like this if my camera will focus on it. After this first row, all you have to do is do basically the same thing, but instead of going through both of the loops, so if you see the little V's there, instead of going through that whole V, so like going underneath here, then you actually just go through one of these loops on the side so that it makes a little ribbing effect. I don't have an example for this type of yarn, but for one of my other projects that I have that I've used that on, see how there's like these nice little bumps that go along it? So that's kind of the look that I'm going for. So at the end of my row, I make another loop on the end as an extra little spacer, and then I just start doing the same thing that I was doing before. The only different thing that I'm also going to be doing is I'm going to be doing what I think is called a double half crochet. No, maybe not. Maybe just a half. No, it's like 1.5. I don't remember what it's called. But essentially, what you do is you take your little hook and you wrap the yarn around it first, and then you go through your loop that you're going through. So like that. And then you pull your yarn through, and instead of having 2 loops, you'll have 3, and then you just go all the way through all of those. So I'm going to do that for every single one of these all the way down the line, and I'll do that for several rows, and eventually we'll get to a little rectangular looking thing. Alright, so there's my next loop, and so then I'm just going to keep doing that over and over. Okay, so now I have this little rectangular piece here. So regularly for like an actual human-sized hat, you would actually continue this out even farther. So then eventually you could tie up these sides together to like make a round hat like that. But since my hat is going to be little, I'm not going to be doing that whole shebang. I'm just going to be keeping it this size. But that means I'm going to have to attach these sides. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but they don't have the same sort of regular stitching like the top or the bottom would. So it's going to be a little bit interesting to get that figured out. I'm just going to kind of wing it and tie it together in the best way I can, and we'll see how it goes. So basically what I'm doing is just doing regular crocheting through whatever loopholes I can find. So I'm just kind of taking my hook, hang on, I'm just kind of taking my hook and pushing it through both ends of the yarn like that, and then just doing a regular crochet loop to tie it together like that. So now that I have this whole side closed off, I'm going to turn it inside out and see how it looks. Alright, so it's not as pretty as I would like it to be on the inside. You can still see that it's not very evenly stitched in there, but it's good enough for a little Christmas ornament hat, and I'll just take the most even side and make that the bottom of it. I'm going to close off this crochet, so I'm going to take my scissors and just kind of, well, maybe not make the tail that long. I'm going to go like this and just cut the end of the string, and then you actually pull the last loop that you had in there so that it's nice and tight and it can't come out. And then all you have to do is take that tail that you have here and just kind of crochet it back into the piece. And then you can cut off the end like that if it's just too long. I'm going to leave this out, this little fuzzy bit, just because I'm going to end up rolling just the bottom of it for the like little rim of the hat. For the top of the hat, we're actually going to use some other yarn to kind of cinch it up. Again, this is something that's different from the way you would regularly do a hat. So when you regularly make a hat, at least with the way that I've done it before, with these ridges, when you would typically have it going the other direction, because like I said, you had to do it the other way in order for the top and the bottom to mesh better for a real hat. So usually you would go through each of these ridges with some yarn and then just pull it together to cinch it up and make the top of the hat. I'm gonna guess kind of try and go through like maybe every three of these, every three of like the little V shapes here, and then see if that cinches it up well enough. So what I did is I cut a little piece of yarn that I think will be long enough to go all the way around. I tied the yarn onto one of my loops here, and then I am just going through one of the little stitches, so I'm skipping by 3 or 4 each time. So all you do is you take the yarn like that, you find like 3 or 4 after this, after the one that I was on, and you just go through that little V, so it goes like that underneath it, and then you pull it through. And instead of a regular crochet where you would make a loop, I'm actually pulling it all the way out. Like that. So now that's in all of those holes, and the last step is you actually just pull this string so that it cinches up on top. Like that. So try and tighten it as much as you can. Then you can just tie off the end of that and make sure that everything looks good, and you should have the top of your hat. Then all you have to do is tuck in your ends and it should be good to go. So now you should have this little beanie looking thing. So I'm going to fold up the bottom of this as like a little hat rim, which is kind of cute, like that. And then I'm also going to be making a little pom-pom to go on the top of this. Alright, so for the pom-pom, you're actually going to be using a different color if you feel like it. For me, I'm going to be doing this dark blue color. And then what you're going to do is you actually just wrap the yarn around your fingers. I might actually only do 3 fingers because I don't want it to be too big. But basically, you just straight up wrap and just keep doing that over and over for a while. So once you have a good amount of yarn on your hands, you can trim it at the end like that. And then you're going to take it off of your hand, maybe. And then, now that it's looped like this, we're actually going to tie a knot in the middle. And then use some extra string to wrap around this way. So with the string around it, it kind of looks like a little bow tie, kind of, like that. So you want the string as tight as you can get all the way around. And then tie quite a few knots. I would tie like 3 or 4 knots, just so that it for sure will stay together, like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to find the little loop. So like since it went around like that, there should be little loops here. And you're just going to cut through each of those loops like that. And then you have your own little pom-pom like this. So what I'm going to do with these longer strings is I'm actually going to pull them through the top of my hat and then tie them through there so that it stays on top of the hat. So once both of your strings are inside your hat, then you're actually just going to tie a knot with both of these so that it stays attached to the inside of your hat. So for the pom-pom, I'm trimming up some of the not so even pieces so that it looks a little bit cleaner. And then you just kind of fluff it up a little bit so it looks more even. And there you have it. There's a little pom-pom hat. Overall, I think this turned out really cute. I really like the way that it looks, and hopefully it looks good on my coworkers' Christmas trees. If you guys have any questions about how to do this, I know this wasn't a great tutorial, so if you are unsure about anything, feel free to comment it down below and I'll try and get back to you. I really like this idea of making really tiny things, so maybe I'll do that again in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really like doing fun little craft things like this, so I'll probably do more of these in the future. If you did like this video, please leave a like and a comment down below and think about subscribing, and I will see you guys next week.